Hello, my name is Junior Eduardo, and today I'll be presenting the work entitled Scalar Nonlinear Infinite Control of an IOR Manipulator. This work was authored together with my advisor Guilherme Rafa. An IOR manipulator is a system composed of an UAV coupled with one or more manipulator arms, and in the case of this work, we use the system shown in this image here, in which we have a quadrotor UAV serial coupled with a planar manipulator with 3 revolution joints. And by using this system, we can then define some reference frames to it in order to obtain the dynamic and kinematic models of the system, in which we have their initial reference frame f of I, f of q attached to the center of the quadrotor, and f of e attached to the end effector. We also have f of L1, L2, and L3 centered at each of the manipulator joints, and we have f of A3 that's an auxiliary reference frame rotated 9 degrees in the x-axis in relation with the end effector frame. Using these frames and using a very traditional formula of obtaining a kinematic model, we can then represent the pose of the quadrotor UAV in relation with the initial frame by using the homogeneous transformation matrix shown here, and the Euler angles using the ZIX convention about local axis. And in this case, we have this rotation matrix shown here, and also the position vector encodes in the x, y, and z positions of the quadrotor. From here, we then obtain the pose of the first link f of L1, and by using the Dynavich-Hartenberg convention, in which we have a translation and rotation around the z-axis and a translation and rotation around the x-axis, resulting in a matrix in the following shape, we can then obtain the pose of each subsequent link in the kinematic chain. After we arrive at f of A3, we then do another transformation to obtain the pose of the end effector. Using this model, we can then obtain the generalized coordinates of the system. In this case, we could choose beta 1, beta 2, and beta 3, representing the joint angles, phi, theta, and c representing the roll, pitch, and all angles of the quadrotor, and x, y, and z representing the position of the quadrotor. This results in the system the following control structure, in which we have a controller we want to design, receiving as references the UAV pose and joint angles. The problem here is that we require an outer layer such as kinematic controller or path planar that computes the UAV pose and the joint angles from what we actually want to control, that is the end effector pose. In order to eliminate this outer layer, one possible solution is to obtain the model from the perspective of an end effector. And to do this, we would start the modeling from the end effector reference frame, obtaining its pose using this homogeneous transformation matrix, in which we use the same Euler angles using the same convention to describe its position in relation with the initial frame. In this case, we then use the inverse of the Dynavich-Hartenberg matrix shown previously to work backwards in the kinematic chain, and would eventually obtain the pose of the quadrotor UAV. And using this model, we have a very similar choice of generalized coordinates, with the exception that now we directly have the pose of the end effector as the generalized coordinates of the system. And this allows us to directly project a single layer controller without any outer layer to compute this reference here. And by doing this, we can then proceed to the dynamical model of the system. And first, we then define the angular velocity of the system using the properties of the rotation matrix that, as we do this operation here, we obtain a skew-symmetric matrix from which we can calculate the components of this angular velocity vector here. Using this velocity vector, we can then define the Jacobians given by these equations here. Knowing the Jacobians, we can then proceed to obtain the equations of motion of the system by using the Euler-Lagrange formulas. In this case, as we have a system with 9 degrees of freedom, the square matrices, that is the initial matrix M of Q and the Coriolis matrix, would belong to the real space of 9 by 9 matrices, and the vector G of Q, that is the gravitational forces vector, and delta, that represents the total effect of disturbances acting on the system, would have 9 elements. B of Q is a matrix that represents the input coupling from the control inputs vector gamma to the generalized forces vector. And in this case, we see that gamma is composed of 7 elements that will be described later, resulting in a B matrix that is this shape here. The initial matrix can then be calculated as the sum of the contributions from each of the bodies that compose the system by using the linear angular velocity Jacobians, and using the mass of the system represented by m and the tensor of inertia represented by I. From the knowledge of the inertial matrix, we can then calculate the Coriolis matrix by using the Christoffel symbols of the first kind using the equation shown here. And the gravitational forces vector can then be calculated as the gradient of the potential energy in relation with the generalized coordinates of the system. The potential energy U is represented as the sum of the contributions of each body multiplied by the gravity acceleration, G here. Finally, the generalized forces can then be calculated as the contributions from each of the control inputs of the system, and in this case we have gamma composed by the 4 forces generated by the quadrotor propellers, and tau representing the torques of each of the manipulator joints. The generalized forces contributions from the forces of the quadrotor can then be calculated using this equation here, and from the torques of the manipulator joints we can use this equation here. And from this we can then calculate the matrix B of Q. Before we proceed with the control design, it's important to mention that the WM is an unactuated system. And in this case, we can only regulate 7 degrees of freedom at a given reference value at the same time. Because of this, we separate the degrees of freedom of the system to stabilized and controlled ones. In this case, an analysis of the motion of the quadrotor UEV shows that it must first change the attitude in the roll and pitch angles before it can produce motion in the XY directions. And due to the couple of the systems, this motion is directly affected at the end effector. As we want to control the position of the end effector, we choose the X, Y, and Z positions along with its yaw angle and the manipulator joint angles to be controlled, and delegate the stabilization of the roll and pitch angles of the end effector to the controller. By using this choice of the stabilized and controlled degrees of freedom, we separate the matrices of the system into blocks, and we use S and C to represent stabilized and controlled ones here. Considering the choice of controlled and stabilized degrees of freedom, the next step in the control law design is to obtain a block diagonal inertial matrix. This is done by pre-multiplying the system by the transformation matrix Tm that is defined in terms of the blocks of the inertial matrix as shown here. After we do the transformation, we use the bar on top of the matrices of the system to abbreviate this equation here. Another issue we must solve before proceeding with the control design is that the inertial matrix is reconditioned. This is caused due to the nature of the serial manipulator, in which each link carries the subsequent links in the kinematic chain, resulting in very disparate equivalent moments of inertia. Another problem is that as we design the manipulator to be very lightweight, we have very different masses and moments of inertia between the manipulator links and the quadrotor. And when we couple this system, we have an inertial matrix that is very badly conditioned and almost impossible to invert. And the problem is that we require the inversion of this matrix in the computation of a control law. The solution is to employ some form of numerical method, such as a matrix decomposition to facilitate the calculation of the inverse, or some form of preconditioner, such as the solution we are using here. In this case, we define a diagonal matrix ds by using the masses and moments of inertia associated with each of the generalized coordinates of the system, and pre-multiply the block diagonalized system by this matrix ds. We then name the resulting matrices using this check symbol to abbreviate this new equation here. Finally, after applying both of these transformations, the original control inputs applied to the system can be calculated by using the pseudo-inverse of the control inputs matrix, and the inverse of the transformation matrices Tm and Ts, and the control law gamma check that we will calculate in the next slide. Now, we can then define the nonlinear H-infinity control problem by using differential game theory, in which we have two players. The first one tries to minimize the control effort applied to the system, and the second one tries to maximize the disturbances that can be applied to the system without making it unstable. In this case, we have a solution of the value function here, and by using this solution in the steps described in detail of the article, we can obtain a control law resulting in the following format, in which the control accelerations are calculated as a nonlinear PID with a feed-forward term, and the matrices Kd, Kp, and Ky are defined in terms of the inertial matrix and its inverse, and of the Coriolis matrix. And consequently, these matrices depend of the generalized coordinates and the generalized velocities. In order to verify the performance of the proposed control law, we design an experiment in which the UAM must take off, go to an intermediate position without colliding with the obstacle shown in gray here, go to a target position and extend the arm touching the yellow cylinder shown here, hover for a few seconds, retract the arm, and go back to the starting position and land. During these experiments, disturbances of minus 1.8 newtons are applied to the z-axis and of 0.1 newtons to the x and y-axis, starting at 82.5 seconds. The trajectory for this experiment was generated using an offline RT StarPath planner and saved to a file to be used during the simulation. The simulation is executed using the Provant simulator software developed at UFMG to facilitate testing of nonlinear control strategies applied to UAVs. In this case, we implement the control law inside an embedded system composed of a Raspberry Pi 3, communicating via 1 gigabit per second Ethernet connection to a general-purpose computer running the simulation software. And at each step time, the simulator provides the controller with the references and the state vector, and the embedded system must then run the control law and respond with the desired control inputs to be applied. And we now see a video of the simulation results. During the experiment, we see that the system starts displaced from the reference trajectory, but then quickly converges to it, following it with a very small tracking error. The UAM will then follow the reference trajectory, passing by the opening inside the obstacle without colliding with it. It will then proceed to the target position, where it will extend the manipulator arm and touch the object. It will then hover for a few seconds and retract the arm. And then it will proceed to do the reverse trajectory, passing to the opening again, and return to the starting position. During these steps, the system is under the effects of the applied external disturbances, and we see that it is still able to track the desired reference trajectory without problems. And finally, the system will land, finishing the experiment. These graphs show the results of the simulation we just saw in the video. The first one is showing the angles of the edge effector, roll, pitch, and all in units of degrees. The second one is showing the tracking error in the x, y, and z directions. And we see here that it begins with a large error in the z-axis and then quickly converges to zero, where it remains until we start applying the disturbances. The error then grows a little bit, but then it quickly converges to zero and remains until we finish the simulation. And the last graph is showing the tracking error of the joint angles. And you see here that the error is always very small, being always smaller than 1 degree, and showing an oscillatory behavior when we are in the phase where the arm is extended. But then it quickly converges down to zero and remains until we finish the simulation. And these graphs show the results of the control inputs applied to the system during this experiment. And we see here that when we start applying the disturbances, we have a very sharp and oscillatory behavior in the control inputs, but then they quickly go back to a smooth form and continue in this way until we finish the experiment. We designed another experiment with a trajectory that has faster velocities, but has the same phases and same reference trajectory as the system. It just has different timings, as we will see in the video next. As I mentioned before, the behavior in this simulation is very similar. It just has smaller durations in each phase and thus higher velocities. But the behavior of the system is very similar. We just have a more oscillatory response and a little bit higher error due to the more aggressive trajectory. But as we will see, it will perform the experiments without any problems. This graph shows the results of the faster trajectory, and we see that it has a very similar behavior to the first experiment, but due to the more aggressive trajectory, it has a higher error and a more oscillatory behavior. The same can be seen here in the control inputs, with the only exception that we have a less sharp behavior when we start applying the disturbances at the middle of the experiment. But then the control inputs go back to a smooth trajectory and remain this way until we finish the experiment. This graph shows an histogram of the time necessary to compute the control law, and it's very important to note that most of the computation is done under 7 milliseconds, and even the worst case is done under 11 milliseconds. This is very important because the slowest component in the system are the servos intended to be used in the manipulator joints, and they can only be updated at steps of 12 milliseconds. Therefore, our control laws showed satisfactory computational performance and can be implemented in the real system. For the conclusions of the work, we have obtained the model from the perspective of the range effector and showed that this allows us to design a single-layer controller that directly controls the pose of the range effector, and that the proposed single-layer nonlinear H-infinity controller had satisfactory tracking performance and also had a good computational performance. In the future, we intend to formulate this H-infinity controller with a great number of tuning DOF to enhance its performance, and also to add constraint on the system states to allow it to collide with itself, such as when the manipulator arrives at the top of the junction with the control tree UAV. And also we want to implement this system in a real system and perform real flight experiments. Now we've reached the end of the presentation and open up for questions, and I thank you all very much for your attention.